How's it going, my G's? It's Artifact, slurpty derp. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Sound Designer infused with a caffeine flavour. Today I've got another phase plant video. I feel like in the last week or so, I've been on a little bit of a roll with creating basses in phase plant. And I don't say this to brag, I say this because it's taken me a long time to get used to this synth. And I feel a little bit more free with my sort of ideas and sound design process now. So yeah, I'm just going to run through this bass today. I've called it the Lucky 7 bass because it sounded wicked when I had the global unison up at ×7. The problem is, now I'm replaying it, it's glitching out so hard it won't actually run the project when it's on. But it sounds pretty similar without it, so we're going to run through the sound design without it. But what I ended up doing was I ended up bouncing it out to an audio file here called Lucky 7. I've done a little bit of processing on it as well. But yeah, have a little listen to the loop. And there's a couple of other things in the loop. This is a little stab from the disgusting trucker evil bass I made a few videos ago. And there's a little 3-chain stab from our good old mistress Vital, who, yeah, this is from my newest preset pack as well, which is Apocalypse. So if you haven't got that, definitely check it out. Vital is not gone, it's not going away, and there's some wicked sounds in there. Anyway, so yeah, let's play the little loop, see if you like it, and then you can decide if you want to hear me try to explain how I made it.
The Parables of Phase Plant.
So really, really cool in my mind, and this is how the Lucky 7 sounds on its own here. You see it's got a nice bit of movement, it's got a nice subbiness, it's got a nice crunchiness, it's got a nice mid-range bass, and it's also got this sort of tonal, sort of, yeah, pitched sound in it as well, which comes from the sample again. So similar to my usual or current sort of process with sound design is using the sample section to start off the proceedings, and then yeah, proceeding to FM through a couple of sine waves and throw another little sub underneath and smash it all through the effects. And yeah, we've got a number of different LFOs, and these are on different speeds affecting parameters at a different rate, and it's the combination of having those couple of different modulations playing together that really sort of sets it off. So yeah, let's talk about my life while I turn off these effects. Basically, yeah, it's Monday. I've just been to the gym. It's been pretty good. Looking forward to the rest of this week. Got some lessons coming up. What else we doing? Yeah, maybe starting a new song as well for future release. So loads of cool things happening. Anyway, yeah, that's enough about me.
Listen.
Yeah, white noise to start off. I love putting that in first, and this time I've actually phased it in to my next sound source, which is going to be the sample. And yeah, a little bit just on the level, and again it's taken out the low end of the white noise. And the sound I've got this time is the Cello Arco C2. And I was just pretty much cycling through them as I FM'd the sound into this sine wave already, and then I found that this was the coolest effect. So yeah, essentially like before, you know, set the output to the phase on the sine wave, which is it's sort of on a negative modulation here, and this time I've got the unison set on both of these sine waves. Just sounded quite nice. Sometimes it sounds good, sometimes it doesn't when you turn on the unison. This time it was pretty nice. And here, another sine wave, this time an octave higher than the one below. And again, the output from here is going into the phase from here. Also dragging to the left as well. No right or wrong, is there? And yeah, adjusted the settings a little bit, the spread, you know, how wide I want each of these sine waves to be. And you can hear the stereo image, it starts to sort of move around a little bit. And yeah, when it comes to selecting the right sample, you know, as I was sort of playing through them, you know, you get very different results, obviously. And there's lots of nice ideas in there, but this one was the most aggressive, and I liked it a lot. So yeah, really happy with that. And yeah, I've controlled the overall envelope, so it's a bit of a slower attack, so it doesn't quite punch, right at the start, but it's sort of, the starting at the same time as the kick anyway, so it's naturally leaving a bit of space for the kick. Got a nice long release, so it kind of, doesn't sort of cut off too sharply. And I think if you see these sync modes here, I like to adjust these a very tiny bit because they add in a little bit of extra grit, but too much. Although that's quite nice and gritty, my idea is getting a balance of grit, which is not like too synthetic. So I've used them very, very slightly. So it's still got a natural sounding high end overall. And yeah, next up, I got another sine wave here. Low subby sine wave, -2 octaves. And this is running through all the effects because I'm kind of like smashing it in with the other sounds to, just to sort of distort it together. And yeah, so let's move on to the effects then.
Effects.
I was mentioning with the movement, I've got two sort of main LFOs here. So one at 2/16 and one at 4/16 on a ramp down. And again, I've just adjusted the ramp down shape a little bit just to make it like slightly different. And yeah, we got the third one here, which is like a slower ramp up. And this only happens on one effect right at the end. But most of the effects are happening either on this 2/16 or 4/16. And a couple of movements that already happened before we even get to the effects is I have actually tracked this LFO to the FM amount on our sort of sine waves here. So the phase modulation, from the FM, you can see it's sort of moving up and down a bit. So that's creating, that's already creating some of the most important movement here. So once we got that, then I've got a convolver on, mixing it in a little bit on the modern church. Just getting a bit of reverb in right at the beginning so that when I distort it, we have a little bit of a creative magic that sometimes happens. And here is the phase distortion, again on the LFO. So we're pumping the sound with the drive. This is where it gets pretty nice. This is on my faster LFO, as you can hear. It's a faster kind of pumping. And then I've got a non-linear filter where we really start to shape the sound. And again, this is on the fast LFO here. On the biased mode, the drive all the way up, I've been quite precise on where the cutoff is, just shaping the tone of the sound. 172 was pretty spot on there. I wanted to leave a bit of that subbiness in, and I wanted to leave, a little bit of that mid-range here. And it's just that low mid-range that we're moving around to kind of, draw attention to it. Then we got to reintroduce more volume because we're taking quite a lot out here again. So we got to pump things up again a bit more. So a bit more drive with a normal distortion on the overdrive mode. This is set to my slower LFO. So here's, the first sort of stage where we kind of start to, or we did it on the reverb, but where we start to use a different speed, so we get more of a complex feeling in the whole bass. So yeah, driving that one slowly, and then I've got a bit of a mid-range boost on the EQ, kind of just to make up for what I took out there. And it's a process always of like one stage at a time to refine the sound, essentially. So you might think, why are you filtering it and then adding it back in? Well, because each step is, a new sound. So it's like refining it to make it more like to get that characteristic at the end. So this is really nice, this distortion. This is the sine mode, and I love this one. He really smashes the sound. So it reminds me of the sine fold distortion on Vital. I like that a lot. And then I'm doing a little stereo trick where I'm making things a bit more mono, and then putting the width on a modulation on the fast LFO. So we got a bit of a Venus flytrap effect of the stereo opening and closing a little bit in the sound. Sort of controls it a little bit. And then, I'm not sure what goes on here with the slice EQ, but every time I close it and reopen it, it goes back to default, so that's quite annoying. But the idea is to put a side EQ on here. take out a bit of that rumble in the sides, so that's quite nice there. And then, yeah, finally, my last EQ. This is like a high shelf, and this is coming on my last LFO, which is a slow ramp up, which only happens so often. Because there's this part to the sound, you know, you start to hear a little bit of the sample, you know, more towards the end, and I want to just exaggerate that like tone of the sample. So, and I wanted to bring up the high end, you know, when that little part is heard. And yeah, it's important to note that the sample is not on the whole time either. It is on my modulation here, so it's got a rhythm to it, you know, because it does get very aggressive if I leave it up as it's FMing everything. Sorry if I'm not explaining this like in the most straightforward way, but I think I got the point across somehow. Yeah, that's basically the result then. And then, like I said, I have like unisoned it, but yeah, you can see what happens when I start to play that. But essentially, with the unison, it's made everything like nice and wide, as you would expect, and added a few extra harmonics, and I've just modulated them a little bit on my LFO. So when I was designing it, it wasn't actually glitching. It's only decided to, you know, recently, which is quite annoying. But anyway, yeah, you can't really hear it at all. But basically, it does actually sound very, very similar. So when I've bounced it out to this version here, and then we'll talk about the post-processing in a sec, but when I've sort of bounced it out here, you can hear it's exactly the same. It's just got like an extra layer of sort of stereo harmonics to it. So let's go on to the post-processing here then.
Processing.
So as I've got this little arrangement with a little sort of chain stab lead kind of blip with a bit of a chroma reverb on, and then I've also cut up the sample and I've chucked in one of my little sort of dark basses here, just to sort of give a bit of funk, you know, in between the original pattern that I designed for the Lucky 7. So that's really, really cool. I love that with the drums as well. And yeah, so back to the Lucky 7 then. I wanted to post-process it a bit because, yeah, I just felt like it could have a touch more reverb, a bit of distortion as well. And so I've put on the chroma verb. Nice and simple, only about 4%, just taking out the low end. My favourite setting, I know this is a Logic specific plugin, but any reverb will really do. Just something that's got a nice balance that just kind of works on every sound. The reflective hall, really nice here. Small amount of decay, just a bit of mix. Taking out the low end, obviously. And then I've gone for a decapitator. Again, like great saturation distortion plugin. Don't need it, but it's still dope. I've driven it up all the way, I've turned up the brightness all the way, and then I've just mixed it in, so it's very aggressive when it's up all the way on. Mixing in a bit of that aggression though, and giving a bit more high-end push. And then I've got the Ruiner, which is, again, one of my favourite free plugins, absolutely love it. And yeah, like I could do some more tutorials with it if you want, but I'm still new with it really. But basically I'm just sort of messing around with the saturate and the blend, essentially. That's the sort of dry wet, and I've got this on a LFO, so you just right click, turn up the LFO slider, and then you can go over and check the LFO one, set it to tempo, and then you can draw, you can like you know, see what shape you want, and it's got a lovely little bit of noise, so it like kind of distorts the waveform a bit, makes it like a bit more natural. And yeah, got this sort of coming in as an extra sort of distortion effect. You know, without it and with it, sort of a high-end buzz kind of fuzziness to it, which comes in on and off, so that's quite nice. And then I just put a tiny bit of volume side chaining to the kick, and that's basically the Lucky 7 bass. But yeah, really enjoying making these dope Neurofunk presets on Faceplant at the moment. So we'll continue with this for a little while, see how we go. We may do a little Faceplant versus Vital video, something like that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that today. Have a great start to your week. And yeah, let me know if you like this bass and what you think could be better. And yeah, much love.
Too great.